You've got to get up pretty early in the morning to speak to America's hardworking farmers and food producers. We should know. FLM Harvest is a strategic, full-service creative consultancy proud to reach more farmers, farmer boards, and food and commodity associations than any agency in the country. And we understand omni-channel as well as we understand the journey from field to fork. Most importantly, we connect clients to the audiences that matter to them.
Thank you for joining us for our Agri-Pulse Washington Week in Review. I'm Spencer Chase, joined as always by Agri-Pulse Executive Editor Phil Brasher, discussing the week that was, agriculturally speaking, in Washington, D.C. And in Washington, D.C. this week, the big news coming here today on Thursday morning, the Department of Agriculture officially announcing something we've been waiting on since roughly August of last year, when Ag Secretary Sonny Perdue announced intentions to move the Economic Research Service and the National Institute of Food and Agriculture outside of the National Capital Region, something that they made good on today. They announced intentions to move ERS and NIFA to Kansas City, where the new headquarters will be located, sort of in a reasonably quick time frame as well. The department looking to execute this move. But Phil, this is something that has faced opposition on Capitol Hill, opposition within the research community and within the farm group community, but still some supporters, and notably some supporters from the Kansas and Missouri area, oddly enough.
Yeah, that's where the bulk of the strongest support is. A lot of the opposition, I think, is a lot of concern about the motives behind this. It's really, I think, has been driving a lot of it, and that's because of budget proposals that the White House has made to cut in half the Economic Research Service, eliminate some of its research areas. I think it remains to be seen what exactly happens with ERS in particular as it moves to Kansas City, and it doesn't look like there's a lot that the opponents on the Hill, mostly Democrats, can do to stop that. But that's the employees have a fairly short time frame. According to a document that the department released, they intend to have everybody moved to Kansas City by the end of September. That's a really short time frame.
Right, that's a really short time frame to sell a house, buy a house, rent an apartment, what have you.
And they don't even know the office building where it's going to be located. There are a number of different possibilities in that area. And
of note, this week, the National Institute of Food and Agriculture employees voted to unionize following a similar move last month by ERS employees, a similar landslide margin to the ERS vote. And Ag Secretary Sonny Perdue briefing employees on the decision this afternoon was met with a silent protest. ERS and NIFA employees standing and turning their backs to the Secretary as he was offering an explanation for the decision to make this move. And Phil, as you mentioned, there have been some efforts on Capitol Hill to stop this move. And where do we see those efforts at this point with the decision announced and with House Appropriations action for the Ag spending bill coming next week?
Yeah, well, there is a provision in the House Appropriations bill for USDA that would block this from going forward. However, that bill is not going to be enacted before October 1st, the beginning of the new fiscal year, when these employees, this relocation is already supposed to have been done. And it's doubtful this provision that the House has could get through the Republican-controlled Senate. And let's not forget that two senior members of the Appropriations Committee over in the Senate happen to be from that region, Jerry Moran from Kansas, and even more senior appropriator over there, Roy Blunt from Missouri. We don't see Congress really doing anything unless USDA for some reason had to come back for more money. One thing I should mention, I had a chance to catch up with Senate Ag Chairman Pat Roberts, who of course is from Kansas and is supporting the move. And I asked him about this concern that this was being seen as a way for the Secretary Perdue to cut the research arm at USDA and scale it back. Get rid of as the budget had proposed, and he said he acknowledged that was concern. He said we're going to we're going to oversee this, and we want to make sure that they continue having strong research capability there.
So more to come on that news as we continue to await further reaction from ERS and NIFA employees, as well as some additional details from the department in terms of how practically this move will work. So be sure to stay tuned to the coverage from Steve Davies on Agri-Pulse.com on that subject. I want to pivot into something else that also happened this week. We saw a statement from the Department of Agriculture confirming something Agri-Pulse reported last week, and that is that unplanted acres are deemed ineligible for participation and for payments through the market facilitation program. But there's a but. Those same acres could potentially be eligible for, I believe, what was described as a minimal MFP payment should they be planted to cover crop. And still more details to be unfolded on that. But Phil, it kind of just adds to some of the head scratching and some of the confusion that has been surrounding this 2019 version of the market facilitation program.
Yeah, and that's because of this tremendous problem that farmers across the Midwest have had in getting their crops in, and it's they're pretty much running out of time on corn, and so now they're down to, do I plant soybeans on that land, or do I take a prevented planting benefit, and then do I take a reduced prevent plant benefit and plant a cover crop, or do I just take a disaster payment? Because that's another issue that's been thrown in here, and there's uncertainty about that. The department came out and said this week that the prevented planting payment in the disaster bill would be limited to counties with a disaster declaration. And then we asked Secretary Perdue later when we were going to find out those counties that would qualify, and he said that would be based on the insurance claims for prevented planting. So there could be a lot of counties that wind up with disaster declarations that don't have them now, and that's going to take a while. So just all sorts of uncertainty around this whole area. I hate to be a farmer trying to figure this out.
Trying to understand how to make a planning decision.
I
mean, who knew it was so difficult to spend $3 billion? Like who knew there was so much there was such a issue fraught with so many levels of uncertainty.
And the $16 billion in the trade package.
Never mind that too.
It's a lot more complicated when you have money.
Right. So we'll be sure to keep you up to date on everything we're learning about that process as that continues to unfold. I know a lot of producers looking to make some kind of final decisions here with what they're going to do with their acres here as planting season comes to a close across the Midwest and really across the country as a whole. Before we let you go, we do want to mention something that happens that particularly concerns the dairy folks among us. That being as part of the Farm Bill implementation process at USDA, the sign up for the Dairy Margin Coverage Program is going to begin Monday, and that's something that really since the outset of the passage of the Farm Bill as USDA's earliest days of implementation, they've said that implementing this program was going to be one of their earliest priorities in terms of Farm Bill implementation.
Yeah, we get a lot of pressure from the Hill, and that's because of the bleeding, financial bleeding that's been going on in the dairy industry, particularly up in the Midwest for the last several years. And so, yeah, there's a lot of heat on USDA to get this out. This is probably the most significant change in the Farm Bill with relative to commodity, to any particular commodity. They're expecting a very large sign-up because you're guaranteed to make money if you sign up for this program. We already know, because it's retroactive to January, how much the payments are going to be for the first half of the year, and the first third of the year anyway. And so economists all have told me that it's just simply a no-brainer.
Right.
You're leaving money on the table if you're in the dairy business and you don't sign up for it.
Right, and Phil mentioned his conversations with economists. You can read more on that in his newsletter story on Agri-Pulse.com. You can also read some other stories there relating to the trade issues happening in the broader agricultural spectrum right now. There are a lot of developments on that in the last couple of weeks. We really didn't have time to talk about it in this particular program, but we'd encourage you to stop by Agri-Pulse.com and check out some of our coverage on some of the wide variety of ag policy issues that have happened here in the last couple of weeks and months. But I think that's going to do it for this week. So for Phil Brasher, I'm Spencer Chase. Have a good one.